So there's a few things that I want to say is that one of the important one of the important parts of understanding the story of Christ, first of all, in terms of this thing, is I always say something like Christ fills up the world. Like that sounds like it just sounds like just a religious posturing, but it's the notion that everything gets old and everything dies, right? You're gonna get old, you're gonna die, you're gonna get weak, you're gonna be impotent. All of these things are gonna happen to you, right? Even if you take the little blue pill, you will become impotent. It's in your future. Just deal with it, right? And so the idea is in what you see in the story of Christ, in the small version of the story, and in the personal version of the story, and then in the cosmic version of the story, is showing the manner in which all of this comes together. You could say how there's a possibility of filling up everything with something like glory or with something like meaning. Meaning is easier for people to swallow, let's say. And so fill all of this up with meaning. So there's a way in which you can, this is something you've heard before, right? Die before you die, right? If you die before you die, then you won't be a slave to death. That is that if you become chaste before you become impotent, then when you become impotent, it won't matter. But if you idolize, for example, sexual desire, then when you become impotent, you're going to just be a loser. That's all you're going to be. You're going to be that old buffalo that is waiting to be killed by the lions, right? Or the old lion that's just waiting to be killed by the lions. But what the story of Christianity sets up is a way to kind of move into death successfully, you could say, without it just being scandal, without it just being something that eats you up. So that's on the personal scale. Now on the large scale, the idea that this is what's going on now, like it's completely new, I think is just not true. I think that this story has happened before. This story has been told before. It's there in scripture. It's there in the tradition. Even the technology part, even the civilization part, all of this, even the kind of transhuman aspect, it's all there in scripture and in the tradition, especially the book of Enoch, where we see this kind of more, let's say, fleshed out in terms of a story. But once you kind of understand that, look, the story of Atlantis, for example, like there are stories that are not Christian, but that have a similar frame as to what's happening to us today. And so I think that, how can I say this? The very idea of basing the future on technology is itself, it's an impossibility. It can't work. It's not going to bring us to a new age. It's not possible, right? Because what happens is people sacrifice wisdom for technical knowledge, and they do. We all see that they do. It's like everybody has a phone and everybody knows that phone is killing them. But we still have our stupid phones. I have a phone, I use my phone, but I know my phone is killing me. And so we everybody knows that you trade wisdom for power in the world, for power in the world. And especially, let's say, power that's added, like layers, right? These layers that we add to ourselves. And so the transhumans, they're completely deluding themselves, right? It's the Tower of Babel story once again. And it doesn't work. Even in terms of system, it doesn't work. If you take even this idea, like even now, what we're seeing with this kind of these COVID passports and these desire to kind of just account for everything, or to exclude, the idea to exclude disease, for example, from society. It's like these things they're not possible. You can't have a coherent system which is complete at the same time. It's just an impossibility. And so what happens is these things lead to breakdown. They lead to what happened in the communist era. This desire to have state-controlled everything and centralized, universal everything, and then people starve to death. And this is what's coming. The same thing is coming if they keep going. They keep pushing in this direction. We're going to have as big or much bigger crisis than what we had in the early 20th century.
And so this, I think, is